Now try something smart to chew on. The Lunchroom on RCI, Monday to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom. Informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI. Food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
And good afternoon. Welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It's Friday, 7th of June, 2024. This is program number 1190. And I'm your host, Calix George Jr. In addition to 101.1 FM radio, we are also streaming live on our website. It is rcistlucia.com. You can always get our older shows for download on that website as well. And we're also streaming live on Facebook. Just look for the official page of Radio Caribbean International. And please be sure as well to like and share that with your friends and family. And of course, if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And if you're overseas or you perhaps you just don't want to have your voice heard on air, you can message in to our WhatsApp platform. That is 724-0008. And again, if you're overseas, perhaps you want to call in, you can do so on WhatsApp. That number again, 724-0008. Bit of history for today. In the year 1494, on this day, the Treaty of Tordesillas between Spain and Portugal divided the world, the New World, along the 370 leagues meridian west of the Cape Verde Islands or Cabo Verde Islands off the west coast of Africa. In the year 1753, the British Museum was founded by an Act of Parliament with the royal assent coming from King George II. 1929, on this day, the Vatican City became a sovereign state. And on this day, June the 7th, 1965, the Supreme Court of the United States decided through Griswold and versus Connecticut, the state of Connecticut, effectively legalizing the use of contraception by married couples. We now move on to our dish of the day. The daily dish is brought to you the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. There's all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gas and vanity. Box, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Jou Grizzly, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program here at the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. Now, of course, we are entering cricket season, if you want to think of it that way. And the ICC, International Cricket Council's Men's T20 World Cup is already happening around the Caribbean and as well as North America. I think there's even a match, some matches to be played in Italy as well, I believe. So it's happening, and of course St. Lucia is playing host to some of those matches. There is a considerable amount of effort being put into reinvigorating, renovating the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground, which has been the home of cricket in St. Lucia, international cricket, that is, going back to about 2002. And a fair bit of money being pumped into redoing the roofs and improving on the facilities, the seats, the players' pavilion, the amenities around the grounds, ensuring that the grounds are, even the lighting, of course, new lighting coming in, the car parks are being paved over, and of course the road network heading into that facility, both from the Beauséjour side as well as the Kaimajé side, are in works as we speak. In fact, there is possibly still a tour, maybe that should have just been completed, being undertaken by the Prime Minister and the media to look at the works that are being done right now. Of course, we always want to get an individual who's got lots to say about sport. It is perhaps what he breathes and thinks about as soon as he wakes up in the morning, and the last thing that he thinks about at night as well. I'm not too sure that's true, but of course, we're so pleased to have Mr. Reds Pereira joining us online to tell us about some of the happenings of the ICC T20 World Cup, which is already in train. Reds, thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Information, as I say, is the right of the people, not that my information is any better than anybody else.
And there's quite an interesting state of play. I mean, we're in the playoff period. The groups are at it. Teams are playing within their groups, but we're already seeing some very interesting upsets in some of the groups. In particular, Group A, I believe.
Yes, I think you're referring to what is probably. Well, I don't know. There was a couple of upsets in 2007 when the Irish beat Pakistan and Jamaica,
right,
and Bangladesh beat India in Trinidad, which affected the attendances because a lot of those those two nations who were in fact knocked out, they had major support coming for 2007, and they changed their mind. They sold the tickets, they canceled their hotel bookings. So you've had a repeat of that with America beating Pakistan, who may not now qualify because their next opponent is in fact India.
Wow.
Unless they can really turn things around.
Right.
It'll be again. It's going to affect certain countries because certain countries were hoping that Pakistan would have come through in the quarterfinals.
Now, Reds. I mean, Pakistan is one of the great teams. Cricket has been played for a very, very long time. Effectively, Pakistan, although they would never want to think of it that way, almost the very same passion, just as with India itself. And long-standing rivalry. It's interesting that they're in the same group. But how was the United States able to actually defeat that Pakistani team? What's happening there? Some people said that when they looked at the United States team, it looked like it might have very well come out of the Indian Premier League.
Well, not totally. One of them is Canadian, born in Canada, played for Canada, and now has switched allegiance. But you are right, some of them do have an Indian background, do have a Pakistan background, but they're all now U.S. citizens.
Right.
Ali Khan, the fast bowler, has been connected with the Trinidad franchise team, right, for the last 3 or 4 years. So I think they're homegrown in a sense. They're homegrown in a sense. They have, of course, the Barbadian boy who done his cricket in the early days in Barbados, then migrated. He's coming back. He's played a little bit of CPL, but I think he's thrown in his chips with Canada because, you know, as you know, I mean, he's thrown in his chips with America, what I'm saying. And, I mean, America has had, you know, their own franchise cricket. So You're talking about earning a very decent living. There's also a South African. He's about 28. He migrated to America. I mean, basically, people would need to be able to offer their trade. Probably couldn't make the South African side. So they are a bit of a United Nations, but it's not people who has just been bought out, given a passport. There are some qualifications before you can play for America.
Now, this is an interesting time, certainly, as it would appear things have come full circle in terms of the United States and cricket. Perhaps many would not have been aware that the first international tournament, so to speak, that the West Indies as a team actually played was actually heading up to the United States and Canada, I believe, places like Philadelphia. That was back in the 1880s.
Yeah, because the British, who initially had been very strong in North America, had brought the game with them. You know, just like how they brought the game to the West Indies. They, long time before, had set up the game in America, where you had a number of teams from different states, you know. And that basically has gone unnoticed until maybe recently. I think you've seen a lot more information on the background of cricket in America. I mean, there's a story I read where Don Bradman, the great Australian, played in America and got bowled for naught.
Wow.
Right?
Yes.
I don't know how authentic that story is. I hope I'm not repeating a false news story, but it's been played in America for a long time. In certain parts of Canada, in Western Canada, in Ontario, it is quite strong. And one of the things I need to say that the infrastructure of cricket in the last 2 years in America, likewise Canada, has also been very much on the improve. For years, people in North America played on matting. They played in parks.
Right.
All of a sudden now you have a stadium in New York.
Nassau County Stadium, a fantastic facility.
Yeah,
from what it looks like.
They seem to have a pretty bad pitch because there was a game, I think it was India against Ireland, where some of the commentators described it as dangerous to the Irish. And they are, in fact, doing what they could to try and get it in better shape, because Pakistan is going to play India on the weekend in New York.
Right.
And both sides have got fast bowlers.
And of course, we saw, I think, back in the ICC 2007 World Cup, the big push then was Lauderhill in Broward County in Florida. So that facility is still up and running. But now, as well,
Lance Gibbs played a part in that, along with other people. They had a mayor who was very keen on cricket, found the money, and built it. It was probably the first cricket stadium proper,
right,
in America. Now they've been joined by maybe another 5.
Yeah, some significant, and even in places like Texas, interestingly enough, Dallas, Texas, the Grand Prairie Stadium, and I suppose that has a lot to do with a significant Indian population in out in the suburbs of Dallas and Plano and the like. So
and already you're seeing people signing contracts. I just saw an Australian, Stonis, the all-rounder, signing a contract to play in the American franchise competition.
Mm.
He's getting real money. So they're picking up people. I will see. Don't be surprised if you see a couple of West Indians also, contracted to play in the American franchise competition.
Well, I mean, certainly in a population of 330 million and growing, with a very significant expat population coming out of places like India. I think there are nearly 2 million in people of Indian descent in the United States, and over 600,000 from what I'm seeing Pakistanis. And of course, we know we have a very strong West Indian population and others. There should, in fact, be but potentially as well, maybe even attracting the ordinary American, who may very well be very interested in getting into the sport.
And the 2020 is almost a cousin of baseball, and in fact, baseball could be very boring too. And bottom of the 8th innings, and there's no runs on the board.
Right.
So the 2020 really suits the American lifestyle. Fast, quick moving, and ironically, as you raised that question, many years ago, the West Indies board was offered to virtually have a responsibility for North America, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe we really capitalize on that offer.
Right.
I think other people have been able to inch in, and I think we lost an opportunity there. But I don't want to go into that because it's something that I don't believe that nobody really wants to talk about. But we did have an opportunity to be responsible for the development of the game in America.
And certainly it'll be really interesting to see how that continues to pan out. And a number of other countries seemingly in this World Cup, and they seem to want to be competitive contenders in their own right. Afghanistan, I think West Indies is supposed to be playing Afghanistan soon.
West Indies will play Afghanistan and Trinidad soon. And tonight, I think your listeners would probably want to watch the game tonight from Guyana, because Afghanistan plays New Zealand. They're in the same group with the West Indies, along with Papua New Guinea
and Uganda, I believe,
and the African country Uganda, and only two can go forward. So I believe the entire West Indies team will be watching this very carefully, looking at players, looking at their style, looking at their techniques. Are they good against spin? Are they good against pace? And tonight is going to be a ring-ding of a game, because both teams are very strong. New Zealand has got 3 spinners, suits the Providence track. Afghan has got 4 spinners, suits the Afghan track. So it's going to be a very key game, because somebody is going to win, and only 2 can go forward. So the West Indies game against New Zealand and Trinidad, the West Indies game here, which I expect there are a small number of tickets left, and of course the Pakistan, that virtually will be sold out by the time the 2 teams get here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a very interesting situation. Four groups. Group A with, as we mentioned early on, India and Pakistan, but already an upset with the United States, Ireland and Canada in that group. Your expectation coming out of that group, you still think Pakistan could pull it off and end up with India moving forward?
Well, they will have to win everything after here. Incidentally, today, Canada is playing the Irish. Canada only made, I think, just under 140. I was involved in a talk show, so I couldn't be looking at that at the same time. And when last I checked before you called me, Ireland had slumped to 50 for 4. So you're going to have maybe upsets all the way. But can Pakistan still qualify if they lose to both America and India? I think they might have just at that time be out of the competition.
And certainly over the weekend, as you mentioned, India, Pakistan, that's on Sunday. I think lots of people will be glued to see the outcome of that moving forward. And of course, into Group B, you've got Scotland, Australia, Namibia, England, and Oman. And of course,
the West Indies are playing Uganda in Guyana.
And well, I was just talking about the groups in total, but yes, West Indies playing Uganda on the tomorrow. That's going to be happening, and also in Group D tomorrow, Netherlands against South Africa. The Dutch team seems to have actually performed fairly well. Sometimes you're thinking there,
and would you believe it that they have 3 players who play for English counties, who have turned down the Netherlands contract to play in the World Cup because they want to remain and honor their contracts with the English counties. So they could be actually stronger. But maybe for financial reasons, it's better they complete their contracts with whichever county they're playing for, then maybe accept whatever is the offer by the Netherlands. But they have come on quite nicely, and likewise the infrastructure development in the USA. I think we have seen within Holland or within the Netherlands, they have had an improvement in the cricket facilities. I think so are the Irish. The Irish has been able to attract sponsorship. They have built an indoor school. They have better training facilities. There's more money to offer their players.
Right.
So it's really all about that. And unfortunately, we are among the countries that don't have the extra cash to improve our infrastructure. I mean, right now the infrastructure is getting a great boost,
right?
Because of the countries who are hosting, they've had to meet ICC requirements,
right?
So we know what's happening at Rosalie, which is a practice area, Mendo Phillip Park, a practice area. But for us to further improve, we need to have better facilities and be able to pay our players where they stay home instead of being attracted to every little small franchise that's being offered, where players who can be paid by the board stay home.
Yeah. Well, it'll be very interesting to see how that pans out, of course, across the Caribbean. I mean, of course, we do have CPL, but I take it you're talking about them staying on even longer, for longer spells in the Caribbean.
Yes. I mean, they're all available for CPL because that's almost a bit of a window. One of the things that there's a strong feeling about that the Indian Premier League went on too long. That should have been finished 2 weeks prior to the start of the World Cup. It was finished 5 days away from the start of the World Cup, and you had people scrambling to get back to their respective teams. I mean, for example, Darren Sammy played. The Darren Sammy coach, West Indies side, played South Africa, Jamaica, and there were 6 players of the 15 chosen missing. simply because the Indians are the bullies, and they simply decided that they are going to choose that date, although the World Cup dates were chosen well in advance.
I'm just thinking about the entire annual cricket schedule of the Reds, and I mean, coming back to the whole conversation, the point you were making about this long struggle between the long form of the game. Is anywhere really doing more than 2 tests in a series at this point? Are they? I mean, is it England, Australia? Is that the only one that might be doing more than that?
India, Australia, England, yeah. Maybe South Africa, right? Maybe not as far as New Zealand. No, they have cut it right back. The smaller countries virtually. I mean, we played. There was a recent series where, I mean, the world was begging for a third test. It was slam bam, thank you, ma'am, and it was over. No third test.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to play 3 in England, which we are very lucky in a sense.
Right.
But the West Indies are a drawing card in England because of the previous great teams and the great players who are performing in England. There's still a love for West Indies cricket. I'm told that the test at Lord's is totally sold out, and the other 2 test matches tickets are going very, very fast. So you'll see almost a full house. You'll see a full house at Lord's, and the other 2 test matches, you'll see a very good crowd.
Too early for you to give us any predictions as to who you might think would be in the finals of this World Cup, ICC T20?
No, I think you will be maybe ill-advised, but I will say that you'll have to rate India, you'll have to rate Australia, you'll have to rate New Zealand, West Indies, South Africa, Afghanistan.
Afghanistan, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Afghanistan is a pretty well-knitted side. They play well together. They've been playing for a long time together. They are based in northern India. You know, they're not affected by the Afghan situation in Kabul. You know, I think they get their independent money from the ICC. Their players are now playing all over the world, so they've gotten better and a lot more experience.
Good stuff. And one certain team that seems to be missing in the mix, Zimbabwe. They're not in this tournament.
That's an amazing thing. When I saw Uganda play, and they beat Zimbabwe twice in the qualifier, for them to qualify, I really couldn't understand how that happened. You probably have to see the game to really... But they beat Zimbabwe to qualify.
Mm-hmm.
One would have thought that before a ball is bowled, you would have said, well, Zimbabwe would have qualified from that group. Some groups are very easy to qualify. For example, Papua New Guinea had to play, I think, against Japan.
Okay.
and one other small nation in that area.
Right.
And that's how Papua New Guinea is here. It was felt that, you know, the ICC not only must allow them to qualify and play, but the ICC should spend some money in Papua New Guinea, in all the smaller Uganda.
Yeah.
Help them with the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Help them with coaching. Help them with finance, so that, you know, the African countries are mainly a football playing country.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Football playing country.
But they did at some point also have some cricket traditions as well in Kenya, in Ghana. But unfortunately, I guess a lot of it has not been supported, as you're rightfully saying.
Yes.
The international efforts.
There was a lot of cricket here. I'm just trying to remember. I think Charlie Steers, the former West Indies fast bowler, he he got into public health, and he played in Kenya. There is, I think Leslie Clark told me a story where he played. He was a very promising cricketer in St. Lucia at the level of the schoolboy, and they played in the senior competition. Leslie told me that he worked in that part of the world, and he played cricket in Africa.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So you've had that over the years. In the first World Cup, which I went to in 1975, East Africa played as one of the competing nations.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And
Way back there.
And I'm also thinking that a powerhouse, population-wise, certainly, like Nigeria, is another area that the ICC should certainly be looking to promote the development of the sport.
Yeah, well, that's a powerhouse in football in their own right.
Right, yeah.
You know, so, to develop cricket in Nigeria, you'll have to fight the traditions, the great traditions of Nigerian football. It's just like maybe trying to start cricket in the Cameroons. They did so very well as an African nation.
Indeed. Reds, it's been a wonderful conversation as always. Thanks for giving us that heads up in terms of what to look out for this coming weekend. And, of course, the preparations right here in St. Lucia for the ongoing ICC Men's T20 World Cup.
And the latest from the ticket booth, I understand that, as I repeated earlier, there is a party stand, and there's some tickets for a section of the Johnson Charles stand. So for those people who have been dilly-dallying, if you want to get a ticket, West Indies, Afghanistan, you better go this afternoon.
Wow, okay.
Okay.
Well, you've heard it from a very credible source there, so get going up to Boseju. Thanks very much, Reds, for that, and have yourself a wonderful weekend. And that's our dish of the day. We're going to take in our weather report at this time and then come back to the program to take in some calls.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. Need all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Grizzlies, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home. Really? Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with the tile stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up. What are you looking for? Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle-dazzle. Okay, Ms. Razzle-Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my #1 store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for. That sounds perfect. I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation. I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and Vieux Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And also, of course, on the 1.1, it's now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Tile and Bath. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from between the east and east-southeast near 21 miles per hour or 33 kilometers per hour. The weather fair to partly cloudy and lightly hazy with isolated showers. The forecast for Los Angeles fair to occasionally cloudy skies with a few showers. And a tropical weather outlook. The Atlantic high pressure system will generate moderate easterly to southeasterly winds across the Lesser Antilles during the next 24 hours. A tropical wave with a few hundred miles east. A tropical wave located a few hundred miles east of the region will affect mainly the southern Windward Islands on Saturday as it moves westward near 12 miles per hour or 19 kilometers per hour. And then a tropical wave located over the central tropical Atlantic is moving westward near 12 miles per hour or 19 kilometers per hour. Tropical cyclone formation is not expected over the tropical Atlantic during the next 7 days. And this was the weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Bath.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home. Really? Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with the style stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle-dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my number one store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
And welcome back to the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. We have about 19 minutes to go before the hour of 2 o'clock. And we were just discussing some cricket, of course, with the ICC Cricket World Cup happening in the Caribbean as well as in North America. In fact, there are 3 venues, I believe, up in North America that are hosting some of the matches, and they include what is now known as Central Broward Park at Lauderhill. They have over there a stadium with a capacity of 25,000, and they're going to be about 4 matches over there. Including 3 warm-up matches. There's also the Nassau County International Cricket Stadium, and quite a large facility with the capacity to hold up to 34,000 individuals, spectators at that. We did mention, ironically, with the Netherlands. The Netherlands will be playing South Africa in Nassau County. And if there's a lot of Dutch legacy there, Nassau being one of the names of the ruling houses of monarchical houses in the Netherlands. The House of Nassau-Orange is the name of the family, the ruling family over in the Netherlands. So Nassau comes out of the Netherlands, that name, as well as, of course, they've got quite a legacy in South Africa. With the Afrikaner population there, early colonial settlement in South Africa. And there's also another stadium over in Texas, the Grand Prairie Stadium, smaller facility for about 15,000 seats, and maybe about 4 matches being played across the tournament in Dallas. And of course, in the Caribbean, in the West Indies, Antigua and Barbuda, Viv Richards Stadium with a capacity of about 10,000. There'll be 8 matches played there. Guyana, Providence Stadium, one of the new facilities, of course. Viv Richards Stadium as well, a new facility that came out of the 2007 Cricket World Cup. Providence built outside of Georgetown, south of Georgetown in Guyana. That facility, 20,000 seats. They are going to be hosting 6 matches, including one of the including the semifinals. One of the semifinal matches that will be held there, and of course, Providence Stadium was also the one that replaced the historic Border cricket ground, which was the home of the of Guyana cricket for a very, very long time. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is in the mix this time round. They weren't a venue in the 2007 World Cup and other World Cups since then, 2010 one as well. But Honorsville has been improved, expanded upon. Of course, a very picturesque grounds right by the water, with a capacity of about 18,000. They will be hosting about 5 matches. In Trinidad, 2 venues are going to be utilized. Of course, the historic Queen's Park Oval in Port of Spain, and well, you could say the heart of Port of Spain, and the capacity, very long time, was seen to be the largest in terms of capacity in the Caribbean, 20,000 spectators in that facility. And as well, the Brian Lara Cricket Stadium, Cricket Academy, Taruba, towards south central Trinidad. That facility is going to be hosting some matches with a capacity of 15,000 seats. And in fact, it's also going to be hosting one of the semi-final matches in the mix. And of course, right here in St. Lucia, with an estimated capacity of 15,000 seats. There's, of course, the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground will be hosting 6 matches, including some of the group matches. Barbados is the home of Kensington Oval, and it's currently, I believe, the largest in terms of capacity right now in the Caribbean, in the West Indies, with a capacity of about 28,000 people. And they will be hosting 9 matches, including the final of this tournament. So that's just a quick roundup of the facilities that are going to be used. Of course, there was some concern raised in some countries regarding facilities and not hosting in St. Kitts and Nevis, for instance. There was that call for the government there to consider hosting matches. They did, in fact, spend some money upgrading Warner Park in the 2007 World Cup, but they are not hosting this round. Of course, Sabina in Jamaica, they are also not within this mix this time around. Of course, the ICC normally will require certain upgrades or certain standards when it comes to facilities, as well as the logistics that have to be put in place to make these games happen. And of course, it does take a fair bit. Of course, this is normal in that I did hear some commentary. Some people suggested that, we only are getting things done if it's a major event, or if it's jazz, or if it's something like cricket. And the reality is that you're going to find that you are going to get infrastructure improvements with these mass crowd, events. So you've got the Olympics going on, coming up soon in Paris, and a tremendous amount of money being pumped into upgrades to the metro system there and the rail system into the suburbs, and efforts at greening the city, making it more pedestrian friendly, improvements to the various attractions. Of course, Notre Dame Cathedral, which had burnt. Remember that fire some years ago, and the whole rush to ensure that it can be somewhat open for the Olympics as well, and many other initiatives. The cleaning up of the Seine River, the main waterway that around which the city of Paris was established, and a tremendous amount of resources being pumped into hosting events like that. And countries will do that, and they will want to see improvements that can have a legacy beyond the weeks that the actual matches or events or tournament is actually being held. So is it only being done for that reason? No, I think you certainly have to look at it in terms of the broadening of the capacity of the country to be able to deliver for its ordinary use, for everyday use. That certainly is very important within that context. As well, I think you're going to even have another, is it Olympics, I think, coming up in 2030, I believe. Yeah, I think it's actually the Olympics, and they are speaking about hosting it in it's in Spain. Is it in Spain? Yeah, Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. And of course, Spain and Portugal being north of the Strait of Gibraltar in the European side, and Morocco being on the southern side in Africa. And there's even a conversation, or not more than a conversation, there's a proposal to actually build an undersea tunnel crossing that channel out of which the Mediterranean enters the Atlantic Ocean. And there's actually a proposal to build a tunnel connecting Spain and Morocco, actually having a physical connection to move people and goods and services across between Africa and Europe for the first time, in a similar way, of course, as you have the Channel Tunnel in between UK and France. And that is being done within the context of the hosting of that 2030 FIFA World Cup. As to whether it's all going to happen, of course, there's always a big pressure in terms of time to be able to deliver on many of these infrastructural projects. Sometimes you can have situations where countries may go overboard, or they end up stretching themselves over, and that was the fate of Greece. They spent a considerable amount of money in putting on the Olympics. That was, I think, back in the year, it was 2004, I think it was, and that ended up, in fact, happening, but at a tremendous cost to the country that actually put them on a trajectory towards having one of the highest debt to GDP ratios in the world. And of course, they ended up in tremendous financial difficulties as a result of a lot of the spending that was done in relation to that Summer Olympics back in 2004. So certainly countries do have to be wary that they don't overstretch themselves in trying to meet the obligations of these things, and also to have legacy projects coming out of the hosting of these different events. Now, there's one other matter that I wanted to touch on very quickly. I'm not sure that we have enough time to actually take in the clip on it, but that is the issue of, it's a geopolitical issue, really, and currently, right now in the world, I think if anybody were to just simply ask the question, who is the largest manufacturer of goods in the world right now, I think most people would guess the answer right. And the answer to that question is China, the People's Republic of China. And they have, in fact, been in this position for a little while now. And of course, they have become effectively they've seen to be the world's factory. They, in fact, produce close to $5 trillion worth of manufactured output. And the next largest is the United States of America with $2 trillion. So you can see that it's well above the United States of America. And they are in a class on their own. After them, in fact, comes Japan, and Japan with about $1 trillion worth of manufactured goods being produced in Japan, followed by the likes of Germany and Korea. But they are under $1 trillion in terms of production. And so those are the top five: China, United States, Japan, Germany, and South Korea. And you would note, of course, within that context, we didn't hear about India. And India is now the world's most populous country. It has 1.4 billion people. It's got a population that has exceeded that of China at this point in time. And a lot of the Chinese, the ability for China to be able to achieve what it did was, in fact, the fact that it had a very large population. When you have a large population, it allows you to get into not just light industry. So you're not just producing smaller items, for argument's sake, things like maybe your textiles and clothing and shoes and apparel and bags and small household items, that type of thing. But you can actually begin to talk about heavy industry. And the heavy industry is what usually will require a lot of energy, but a lot of large markets for some of the things that you're producing, right? Whether it might be steel, and then, of course, things that are coming out of that, automotive in your automotive industry, your shipbuilding, plane manufacturing, and those types of things. And China has been able to, over the years, go through these various phases of industrialization to the point that it is now the largest, but also because it has this massive population, it has a large market for its own goods, in as much as there is a huge thrust towards exports. That's really what's important for them. Their own internal market does help a lot from the perspective of consumption, but as well as, of course, keeping labor prices down and having that flow of your labor force coming in to support the work that's being done in those factories. So, however, what's happening in China, interesting enough, is that you are now seeing that the wage prices have gone up, are continuing to go up and increase. And they're getting to a point where, for certain things, it's no longer really competitive for producing them in China. And you're now seeing other countries within, especially Southeast Asia, that are not as wealthy as China, taking up some of that slack, and now also getting into a more industrialized mode of development. And so the likes of Vietnam and Laos, Myanmar, Cambodia, those countries, Indonesia as well, are certainly taking up a significant amount of these other products that need to be manufactured at, and even that require labor and require cheap labor to be able to do so. But of course, we then speak within the context of India, because India is still at a point where it's got a massive population, a very large rural population still, and they, in fact, according to the recently re-elected Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, they believe that they can, in fact, surpass China. That's their plan, to surpass China in terms of becoming the world's leading manufacturer of goods in the world. And it's a big, interesting task, because when you look at where India is today, India is producing about a tenth of what China, less than a tenth of what China is actually producing. And so, but they have that plan, and it's part of their ambitions. Now, we were hoping to be able to take in an interesting clip discussing that matter, but we'll probably have to leave that, unfortunately, until next week, where we can look more in terms of this ongoing rivalry between India and China. They've had lots of issues over the years, and one of the areas that India is looking at certainly is to be able to replicate, so to speak, the Chinese success story. That's our program for today here at the Lunchroom. We do hope that you can join us again next week for another program. I'm your host, Calix George Jr., saying goodbye.